Welcome to the HyperFast Agent Growth Show. Get real strategies, real results, and real estate them differently. Lead generation, team building, AI, and more from billion-dollar agents, best-selling authors, international speakers, and real estate coaches, Kerry Shull and Lesniak. Let's dive in!
All right, welcome back to the HyperFast Agent Growth Show. We are back with our panel. We've got a locked and loaded episode, tons of interesting news and questions to go over with our panelists. So let me give you the rundown here. Big changes coming in condo lending. Is it going to get easier or harder, quicker, slower for buyers to get loans on condos? This is news from Fannie and Freddie. We'll go over that. Interesting article on AI. Is AI actually misleading consumers on the search for qualified agents? We'll go over that. And then we're going to ask our panelists if you'd rather have 100,000 followers on social media or 1,000 past clients, when you should fire a client. And if we have time, and we may not be able to get to all of these, are open houses underrated in 2026? All right, let's kick it off with Karl. Big news on the lending front with regards to condos. Karl, give us the update here, and then we'll get quick reactions from everyone.
Yeah, biggest update here for condos is that there's no longer what we call limited review. When lenders do financing, we're going to get a questionnaire filled out by the association. And what type of questionnaire we sent over to the association was based on the down payment from the borrower, and that down payment amount varied based on whether they were living in the home, it was a second home, investment property, etc. There were two different condo questionnaires that we would send over, a limited and a full. The full asked a bunch of other questions that the limited one didn't ask. Essentially, they've retired the limited questionnaire, and it's going to be a full review all the time now. So that can open the door for some challenges for potential items that would come up on the full that otherwise wouldn't have came up on the limited questionnaire. But for the most part, the biggest concern I think most people have is about the extra reserve requirements for the HOA, which I personally think long-term is a good thing because we've seen a lot of HOAs that have mismanaged the budgets, had a lot of deferred maintenance that they did not keep up with. And I've seen some projects in the DMV area where that, like, one of them had to take out a $8 million bank loan to be able to do the deferred maintenance because they didn't have the reserves. So I think it's going to long-term push associations to better manage funds. The most exciting part about these changes is there is one good one where they removed the investor concentration, which would essentially restrict certain projects from being eligible for conventional financing. If it was over 50% investor occupied or investor owned, then it wouldn't be eligible. And now they removed that restriction. Now, the one asterisk there is I actually had another project that I looked into this on for one of my realtor friends. It does not remove the single investor ownership restriction. So, like, if you have one entity that owns 75% of the units, that's not what they're talking about here. They're talking about just overall investor concentration, not if a single entity owns a large portion of the building.
So there's no longer a limit on how many can be owned by investors. That's totally gone. I mean, It used to be 50%.
Yeah.
Okay, but there is a limit on how much can one single investor own. What's that percentage?
I don't know what that number is, actually.
Right. We'll get back to you guys next week on that. Rarely you'd come up against that one, though. It was always like, you'd be nervous if it was in the 40s, and that would sometimes prevent buyers from buying a condo because they were worried in like 5 years they wouldn't be able to resell it if like another couple investors bought in there. So that's huge. I think the insurance part is insurance and deferred maintenance is interesting because, like, unless the condo was new and they set all their budgets like in 2022, they were using like the pre-COVID inflation numbers on how much it would cost to do maintenance and also the pre-COVID insurance numbers. So I'm sure that this is probably a good requirement and hopefully will cause condos to take a look at the reserves they actually have.
I think it's a great requirement. First, I like anything that makes agents up their game and just be better, more skilled. So from a listing agent side, I think strategically ordering the HOA or condo docs before you go on market was always a great strategic move. So when you ratify, you can deliver those right away, and that 3-day timeline starts. But now it's ordering is, really figuring out what the association situation is, financially, so you don't run into a potential, deal that needs to void, weeks down the line. And for buyers, I think it's great. I mean, there's so many unwarrantable condos in DC, and I've sold a few where, I mean, I've had clients that sold this year where the HOA went, behind on dues, and I'm like, you need to get out of here now because you're not going to be able to sell this, in 6 months. And so I think it's also a protection for buyers, right? Because when we're talking to buyers about purchasing an asset, and a condo is oftentimes like a great first purchase for many buyers, like easy entry point, ton of flexibility, right? It can become an investment property. If you don't have an agent that's actually reviewing the financials and can walk you through, the reserve situation and how you might be in a bad situation in, 3 to 5 years, your asset is kind of blown up, right? And so I think it's positive for the consumer. And I feel like this is the first thing that they've actually rolled out in a year and a half that's, consumer focused and not just like agent, private exclusive focus. So I think it's good.
The answer to your single entity ownership maximum is 25%, by the way.
Okay.
That's not that bad.
So you don't have to wait till next week. Well, thank you for the quick look up on that, Karl. Yeah, always on top of lending information, guys. If you're a real estate agent listening to this, you need a great lender. Karl, how do they get in touch with you?
Text me Bridge at 804-665-4344.
Say that one more time, just and give people some time, and if they're driving to find their pin or whatever.
Yeah, you're going to text me Bridge at 804-665-4344. I got the Richmond phone number because I grew up there, but I live in Arlington. I'm a DMV native now. I think
you land like
adopted
everywhere, right? Or many places, not just DC, Maryland, Virginia. Like where do you do loans now?
anywhere but New York.
Okay.
Yeah, Wall Street makes it tough for us to get up there.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, overall, I'm positive on these changes. I like that the investor restrictions gone, and hopefully these rules will force associations to look at their budgets and make hard choices rather than just push it off. And I think it's a big opportunity for agents as well, on the listing and buy side, because if you come in there, you're knowledgeable about this, and you're able to have the hard conversations with sellers and not just sugarcoat things or gloss over or worse, not know. You'll help them go down the road where like they list their home, they think it's going to get sold, and they find out like this buyer can't get a regular loan on it. So better to know all that up front. So agents, do your due diligence and protect your buyers and sellers. Let's move on to AI. Of course, AI is almost the topic every week. Interesting article from Inman here. Is AI bad at answering the question, who is the best real estate agent? So this was an article on Inman, and what they've been finding is that when you ask, AI a question about like what agent you should use in a certain area, they don't necessarily have access to the MLS. So, you would think when you're asking that question and they give a recommendation, they're going to tell you people that are selling a lot of homes, right? That's what I would want to know. Like I don't want an agent if I'm selling my home that's sold one home in the last year if there's another one that's sold 100. Well, AI isn't really finding that out. They're typically going to blogs and Reddits and other types of social media posts. And, I think the article used an example in Tulsa. Someone was coming up because they wrote a lot of posts about best agents in Tulsa. So it's looking at that stuff rather than who's actually selling homes. So if you're listening to this, perhaps you've seen an opportunity in here. But guys, what's your take on this?
I think this is hilarious because every real estate conversation about AI, I think in the last 90 days has been, is AI going to be the agent that's recommend? Are you going to be the agent AI recommends? Right? That's like the hot topic at every real estate conference. And it's like, sure, it could be, but is that good for the consumers? Are you really the agent that should be recommended? I think that it's great for someone to be able to do a Google search or a search in Claude or ChatGPT, and you come up. You should be trying to rank for those things because that's where people are going to be searching. But I think at the end of the day, this is just more proof that you should be, prospecting consistently to get in front of people. And then when you finally get the opportunity to get in front of someone, you have the systems and process and knowledge of the market to be able to win at an appointment. Because if you are up against an agent or an agent that has sold 100, homes, or that agent has a team that's selling a few hundred homes, I mean, you have to be able to compete, and it's going to come down to how well you present in that appointment. And so I also think on the same token, since AI might not be pulling up accurate searches, the consumer should also be interviewing agents and choosing based on market knowledge, systems, and process on how they're going to get them to the finish line, whether they're buying or selling real estate. And I think it's super valuable to choose people that score points, right? So it does how many homes you sell should factor into the consumer's decision. But at some point, everyone has only sold one home or 10 homes or 50 homes, and we're all got it out the mud. And when you're winning and at the early stages of your career, it's because you can show how you get it done.
Yeah, James, what about you?
Yeah, so it's a pretty narrow question to answer. AI, who's the best real estate agent? Everyone's situation is different. So there are going to be some real estate agents that are the best real estate agents for people that are PCSing, right? Military, and they're moving, right? Because they're specialized in military. You're going to have people that are the best agent for an investor. You're going to have the best agent for luxury property, which is very different from like a condo expert. So I think one of the challenges with AI is that people will ask a broad question like that and not give it really good instructions on how to answer or how to guide them. And then there's just some answer, right? Maybe it's the agent in Tulsa that sells one home a year. And we're still in this phase where people are thinking, oh, like whatever AI tells me, AI is so smart that that's going to be the right answer. And, all it takes is a couple of horror stories or people saying their own experiences where, oh, AI told me this thing, but like the answers they gave me weren't right. I'm going to go with this person who my friend recommended because they described their situation and their situation's like me and I'm like them. So I'm going to go with this person they recommended.
Karl, have you come across this at all in the lending side of things, or or has that been much talk in your industry about getting recommended as a lender by AI?
I personally already had two people reach out to me that they found me from some form of AI. And one of them I remember distinctly, they put in the AI, they're like, give me recommendations of the best lenders for people that have really poor credit. And and then I came up and they called me. But yeah, I mean, I went to a coaching event with my mortgage company a couple weeks ago, and they had like a top producer roundtable, and in that conversation was a lot of this AI and how we get found. And so to piggyback off of James's point, I think we should really be looking at it from two lenses as far as like how do we get found from AI. It's like I would just group like anybody older than Gen Z probably not going to be great at prompting, and they're probably going to talk to AI like we talk to Google. So how do we end up on those searches? But then for Gen Z, how do we end up on the searches where they give a good prompt and they explain who they are as a buyer and what they're looking to accomplish, and then ask it, hey, what would be the best agents for me to reach out to based on XYZ that I've already shared with you, right? I think that those are the two different segments that we should really be looking at and seeing who, like if I prompt that am I one of the people that's coming up as the recommendations? And if not, where can I make myself a little bit more visible to be able to end up on those searches?
Yeah, I think these are all good points. I mean, clearly the system has some flaws if it's giving recommendations without knowing actual statistics. I mean, it would be great if it was connected to the MLS and it was, you're looking to sell your home and it finds you an agent that's sold a lot of homes in that area, has a good list price to sold price ratio, short days on market, all of that, but it's not there yet. And reminds me of a talk Wendy Forsyth, our chief marketing officer at EXP, gave at EXPCon in South Africa, which, by the way, we're a global company in like 31 countries, which is cool. But, we went to that. Wendy talked, and part of the talk at least was on how to get found on AI. And it was saying like real estate agents, you should be giving the different prompts, maybe different kinds, like Karl said, for different markets or groups of people, seeing what the answers are. And then if you're not in it, I think the source data of how AI came up with that answer is either linked in the answer usually, or you can ask it an additional question like, how did you find that? Right. And then it will tell you, like, did it find questions answered on Reddit? Did it find blog articles, different posts, right? So see what it says, and then go out and write those posts, right? Answer those questions on Reddit. Like, again, don't let that take away from your prospecting. Like Nick mentioned, you can proactively get in front of people, which is a common theme on our show, but for that 10 to 20% of your time that you're spending on, marketing and branding and social media, right? Add AI to that. Start putting out content that AI will find and to get you into those lists. Cause I've definitely been on listing appointments in the last 6 months where like they found us because of ChatGPT. So,
I think it's interesting, Dan. I think we're, maybe even a year or two from the next conference, right? Because at every real estate conference, you have the agent that does social media, you have the agent that does open houses, you have the agent that does expires, you have the agent that does Sphere, right? And I think I haven't been to or seen the conference where you have the agent that's like, oh, we did 75 deals last year because of AI. And so the hack for that, maybe you can get ahead of it, but the hack for that is probably coming out in like a year, like next season's, real estate conferences.
Or maybe we'll see the stories at EXPCon in Salt Lake City. That's coming up October 7th, 8th, and 9th. So if you're an EXP agent listening to this, you should be there. If you're not an EXP agent, you should reach out to someone on the show here. We can get you a ticket. I know I'll be there. James will be there. Not sure about you, Nick, but in any case, anyone that wants to come, we will get you in the room. You'll get to hear from Gary V, and I'm sure we're gonna have a ton of AI speakers. I know Brent Gove is speaking, and people that are selling, solo agents that are selling hundreds of homes a year, teams that are selling thousands. So if you want to get to that conference, reach out to any of us. And yeah, we would love to host you, meet you, and help you grow your business in the next 12 months. Whether that's with EXP or at your current brokerage, by the way, there's never any pressure to join us. I should mention though that when you join EXP Realty, you get to choose a sponsor, right? If you are sponsored by myself or Nick or James, you don't just get all the benefits of what you get at EXP, right? You don't, which, just to summarize, that's going to be amazing training, technology, super low caps, stock awards, and what can be the biggest game changer, of course, is revenue share, right? The ability to earn income that can grow and compound and pay you monthly without you being involved, without you being involved in the transaction, right? Revenue share is a life changer. But when you join with us, right, you're getting coaching programs from Tim and Julie Harris, myself and Carrie, weekly trainings, just tons of extra value. Like, we partner with you to help you build your own revenue share group. So, Nick, if they want to reach you, what's the best way?
You can, Instagram might be one of the best ways. It's Nick Bush, the realtor, or you can shoot me a text, 202-255-9560.
All right. And what about you, James?
Yeah, you can shoot me a text at 202-841-7815, and you can just text me EXP.
All right. And
Text
my
me EXP also.
my cell phone is 703-638-4393. Again, if you want to know what it's like to partner with us at EXP Realty or come to EXPCon and check it out in person, please reach out. We'd be honored to have that conversation. All right, let's move on here to a couple different questions. I like this one a lot. Would you rather have 100,000 followers on social media or 1,000 past clients? We'll hear from you first, James.
Yeah, awesome. I love this question. I would 10 times out of 10 choose 1,000 past clients because there's no better testimonial than someone that has already worked with you. They already trust you. They already know the process. They're already, so vetted that you've already done a deal with them, and being able to market to them. And you can market to them, you can retarget that list on social media. So you can still hit them on social media. You can send them handwritten note cards, emails, phone calls. I would 10 times out of 10 rather have 1,000 past clients over 100,000 followers.
What about you, Nick?
I agree 100% with James. 10 times out of 10, 1,000 past clients. First of all, 1,000 past clients means I've done 1,000 transactions, which is overall good for my life and business. I generally convert my database, at an 8 to 10% rate, annually. So that means 80 to 100 transactions every year. I get 1,000 people to call when I do events to have them come out. And plus one, another 1,000 people potentially. And there's 1,000 people to ask for referrals. So I think 100,000 followers is great for being famous. And I think it's cool to be famous and it could lead to a ton of transactions, but having that built-in, past client database of people that know you, like you, trust you, will refer you and will potentially become your raving fan is way more valuable than the followers.
What about you, Karl? You probably are close to 1,000 past clients at this point, but
I'd take 100 past clients over 100,000 followers.
oh
How about
wow,
that?
okay.
How about that? Yeah, I mean, just like Nick and James said, I mean, you have raving fans, people that will refer you. Average person knows what, four people that are going to move every year. So, I mean, your database is your gold mine, and the followers are people that are not necessarily going to recommend you or transact with you. I, I look at it from guaranteed income versus not guaranteed income. So yeah, I would definitely work the database and take the database.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a slam dunk. Yeah, and I probably would take 100 past clients actually over the 100,000 as well. Um, I think a few years ago, the average person moved every 7 years, maybe with interest rates and prices, not being what they were 5 years ago. Maybe that trend is going to tick up. Even if it bumps up to 10 years, that's still 100 of your past clients moving every year. That's a huge number, right? We're not even accounting for referrals in that. And Karl said, on average, they know four people that move a year. So I think the bigger opportunity is with the past clients. It doesn't necessarily have to be 1,000 either. Like, 50 to 100 probably could help you build a great business. Nick, how many are in your database that you're converting
I've,
it to
I've
10%?
scrubbed this over time, and I shouldn't have scrubbed my database down so much, but I have 400 people in my database.
Yeah, cool. So you're like halfway there, which is amazing. But yeah, I mean, I think, and if your database is younger, right, and you've helped a lot of first time buyers, uh, those move numbers might be different. You might be people moving every like 4 to 5 years, as opposed to 7 or 10 or whatever it is, because they're in that upward trajectory of income or starting a family. So,
Even imagine if we had 1,000 real estate conversations every year, what that would look like.
oh, oh, yeah, that would be amazing. So, I think the point of this question though is to get people to think like, a question that I always get from one of my mentors, Tim Harris, is like, would you rather be rich or famous? Right. And it's kind of funny. He says most people, almost everyone answers the question and says rich, but he said a lot of them, like, their actions don't reflect that, right? That they're just saying that because they'd feel bad about saying famous. Although he did say one time someone was actually honest and said famous. But take the actions that will make you rich. Don't worry about the fame, right? And I think sometimes people can get suckered into social media on that. All right, so let's move on. This one's kind of interesting. When should an agent fire a client? And have you ever fired a client?
I'll let
I can
James.
tackle this if you want, or you want to take it, Nick.
No, I was gonna say I'll let James go first.
Um, Unfortunately, usually it's when I look back, I think, man, I should have fired them, or I should have fired them earlier. Um, when you're a real estate agent, you're basically specking your time, right? You're giving them services before you get paid, and so it's a gamble, right? And with every you should be thinking with every interaction, every time you ask them for documentation or tell them, hey, this is the path, and they take your advice or they don't. In my mind, I'm evaluating, like, all right, are they wasting my time or are they not? I've got someone right now. It's clear that the right list price for their home is 850, but they want to list it significantly higher. And I'm I'm walking them through, like, that's a bad idea for all these different reasons. And in my mind, as I'm going through that conversation with them, kind of preparing for it, I'm thinking to myself, all right, if they say no, if they don't follow that guidance, should I fire them gently and say, hey, I don't think this is the right fit for me. But I don't think there's a clear cut way to determine. But if someone's not taking your advice and it means it's going to hurt them and it's going to hurt you, I think people should be really comfortable saying, I don't think this is a good fit.
What about you, Nick?
I think outside of someone, completely disrespecting you or being, like a person with like bad morals, I don't think you need to fire a client. I think that it's always a good day to make $15,000, which is what my average commission is at my price point. And I think that if you're in a situation where you have like a client who is like annoying or difficult, or maybe you feel like you've showed them too many homes and you're exhausted, you have already learned the lesson. You might as well make the money. And I learned that from an agent named Andy Biggers early in my career. I wanted to fire a client and he said, what's the commission? I said like $7,000. It's like the fourth deal I did. And he's like, well, you already learned the lesson, didn't you? This won't happen again. I'm like, no. He goes, so make the money. Right. And so I don't think you need to fire a client. In James's example, maybe you have a price reduction conversation continuously with the client, right? And eventually you make the commission that you were set out to make. And I've had buyers that I've showed houses to, for 3 years, right? Like, oh, let's go see some houses, and we see 6 or 7, right? And then they pause, and then the next year they do the same thing, and then year 3 they close. Well, it was a good day to make that $15,000, right? And it's not all about the money, but it is about just being patient, right? And understanding that we can't make people make decisions. We can just advise them on the best decision to make, and they make those decisions when they're ready. And sometimes we have to convey it in a different way in different times, right? And so outside of a physical altercation or some verbal abuse, like, I don't really see the reason to fire a client. Like, be frustrated and go take a shot and just like follow up next week.
Yeah. I've come close. I recently had a situation where maybe I should have, and I think there definitely are circumstances where you should. We have all men on this panel today, so obviously I think with women there could be different circumstances where you're uncomfortable or have fear or safety issues with a person, right? So I think it's important to set boundaries up front with clients. And my case, recently, again, it was like a $40,000 commission. The seller, she was very hard at every step of the process, like abusive to the contractors. And like, if one little $10 thing was wrong, she like threatened to withhold like $5,000 of payment. And like, so it's kind of making my name look bad to the different contractors that I would refer. And then, just really getting into the details of how the sausage is being made instead of letting me go out and make the sausage. Right. And then on top of that, like, she would be like, Dan, I miss you. And like, I need to hug you. And just like, it was kind of awkward. And yeah, it was just funny. Cause like I got her like almost $100,000 over the list price. But she's fighting me on every step, like showing up to the buyer walkthroughs and creating issues there when it's like, they're paying you $100,000 over to like, just leave the keys in the lockbox. Don't show up and like ruin the deal. And, but yeah, I used to be in the Navy, was on submarines. Like I can put up with a lot, and for $40,000, it's worth a couple weeks of interactions. I did decide though, in the future, like she's got another place to sell, and I'm not going to be involved in that, knowing what I know now. But it's different when you get like, when the end is near. And so I think it kind of also matters, like how close are you to closing that as well. So a lot of different things.
Well, Dan, don't all your clients tell you, I miss you, I want to hug you?
I can't recall any others. It was really, really awkward. I can see though, like, I'm like a 200-pound dude. This is a much, much smaller lady. Like, I don't really have fear there, but if it was reversed, right.
Yeah.
I definitely get that. So yeah, I think it's important to set boundaries up front. Also evaluate like how much money you're going to make from it. And, if you can grit it out for a little bit and it doesn't take away from your other, business, go for it. Now, I think the better you get at proactively prospecting and generating leads, the less you'll find yourself in these situations, because then you're going to have the confidence to be more firm up front with boundaries. Right. So, I think in all questions we address on this show, the better you get at proactive lead generation, like the better everything is. Karl, do you have anything to say on this topic? Have you ever had to fire a client?
I mean, it reminds me of a couple stories. I mean, I think it would be maybe sometimes it's like not hiring them, so that way you don't even have to fire them. But like, I mean, I had an agent a couple years ago, he met a buyer in the office and had me meet with them, and they like had already listed their house for sale and they were trying to buy, and their credit scores were like 500. But they were going to net like 200,000 selling their house. And it's like, okay, well, when you get your money from selling your house, I told them what to pay off on their credit to boost their credit scores so they could qualify to buy another house. And every single month we talked to them, and I looked at their credit every single month for 3 months, and they just never did anything that I was telling them to do. And so it's like that agent didn't waste any of his time because he didn't show them any properties, because he knew that they weren't ready to write an offer. But after like 3 months of them just not taking my advice, it's like, okay, look, like we're not going anywhere here, right? So like technically we never really hired them, but if we did hire them, if you're thinking of it that way, then I guess we did fire them, right? It's like, I mean, you don't have the ability to transact because you're not taking my advice. And then the other one was somebody who she needed to sell her place to be able to buy a new house, and her house was in terrible condition. I got her approved for a bridge loan, but she wasn't willing to actually sell her place. Like the willingness wasn't there. I don't know. It's like you got to do step one to be able to actually do step two, kind of thing. And the agent was taking her out and showing her houses. And it's like, look, hey, until she actually gives us the commitment that she's going to sell her house, you're just spinning your wheels. You're taking her out and showing her houses for no reason, right? So I think it's all about protecting your time, right? And if the buyer's not taking your advice, or I guess, or for you guys, or seller, right? If the buyer or seller is not taking your advice, after a couple times, you got to realize like, hey, nothing's going to change, and you're just wasting your time, and move on to the next lead.
Yeah.
I think
All right. Well, go ahead, James. Real quick.
oh, sorry. I think the thread that ties all this together is if you have enough experience with bad clients, it puts you in a position to set expectations properly and set those boundaries, and to coach people through like, hey, don't do this because it's going to cause a problem. And they might still ignore you anyway, but you can remove a lot of those negative experiences or clients that you wish you had fired by effective coaching and teaching and guidance.
Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, we don't have time to get to our open house question. We'll punt that to next week. But for all of our listeners and viewers out there, thank you so much for tuning in. If you have listened this far, I think it clearly means we've earned a 5-star review. So if you're on Apple, tap the 5 stars, leave us a great comment. You can also put questions on there, or Spotify or YouTube, wherever you're watching, and we will read them and address them on the show. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We will see you next week.
You've been listening to HyperFast Agent Growth Show with Karl Svendsen and Dan Lesniak. Real strategies, real results, real estate done differently. If you love this episode, tap subscribe and share with another agent who's ready to grow.